Welcome to Revision Tools Video 1. This is an overview of the CRISP revision method, which is an acronym, as you can see here, that stands for Clear, Relevant, Insightful, Succinct, and Precise. In the top right-hand corner is my cat Bombadil. All right, wonderful. To begin, clear. Clarity of sentences and paragraphs. Okay, this is certainly arguably the most important thing in writing. If the person reading, if your audience can't understand you, what are they going to make of what you're writing? What can they do with it? So, an example of a potentially unclear sentence. Many of these examples I'm going to use are from essays about The Great Gatsby, which most of you probably haven't read yet, but you'll be able to get the gist of what's going on in the sentences. Nevertheless, making himself wealthy at 30 was much different than being born wealthy to Daisy. All right, as I'm going to suggest for this one and the next four, for each of the CRISP revision categories, I suggest you pause here and think about yourself why this sentence is unclear, what could be made more clear about it. And then when you have some ideas, unpause and you'll hear mine. Okay, so pause and think about what's unclear. Okay, so welcome back. So what's unclear here is that making himself wealthy at 30 was much different. The much different is a little unclear. Than being born wealthy to Daisy. This is the most unclear part. So it sounds like whoever the he is, in this case Gatsby, was perhaps born to Daisy. Born wealthy to Daisy? The to Daisy dangling at the end there is very unclear. Basically, this is a comparison that we're not sure the value of, and we're not even exactly sure of what's being compared. So it needs straightening out. Hopefully you thought of something along those lines. Next, relevance. Coherence, salience, logic, focus of sentences and evidence and analysis being fitted for one another. So when you're looking at an entire essay you've written and considering how to revise it for its betterment, you will think about lots of interplay of sentences and paragraphs for this one. To look at it in isolation is slightly less powerful, but also often relevant. So this will be like a big scale essay revision tool for you. And you can also, though, do it small scale. So let's see it here. He thinks that with money he can buy friends and love, which is proved wrong when Nick is the only party goer at his funeral. I didn't want you to think I was just some nobody. So the he here is Gatsby, Nick is the narrator of The Great Gatsby. So pause here and think about some ideas as to why this isn't quite relevant, why the example is not totally fitted to the analysis that introduces it. So pause and think about that. And welcome back. So he thinks that with money he can buy friends and love, which is proved wrong when Nick is the only party goer at his funeral. So this introductory analysis doesn't clearly yet relate to I didn't want you to think I was just some nobody. As it turns out, Gatsby says this to Daisy, and he doesn't want Daisy to think he's some nobody. So Nick being the only party goer at his funeral and trying to buy friends and love to prove something to Daisy just hasn't yet been achieved here as relevant and clear. So just the link between the evidence and the analysis here and the evidence here, is not yet clear. It's linkable, it's just not done yet. All right, so insightful. This one, very important, very intense. Comes in many different forms. Each of us can tweak, improve our insightfulness in our own unique way, which is true of all the categories, but this one is the most sort of pesky and fascinating and wonderful. So some synonyms for insightful: analytical, persuasive, unique, controversial, wise, sharp, discerning. Okay, so here's a sentence that has a lot of analytical power potential. Whether Gatsby thought of Nick as an actual friend can be debated, but Gatsby's using Nick is pure fact. So nice structure there. So think about how that could perhaps be more insightful, and pause here and then start again after you've thought of some ways. Okay, welcome back. So whether Gatsby thought of Nick as an actual friend can be debated, but Gatsby's using Nick is pure fact. Great. So like I had alluded to before, this is a really powerful sentence. It's true, and it's an exciting sentence the student had in their essay. We just want more. We want elaboration on this. How and in what ways can we debate that whether Gatsby thought of Nick as an actual friend? So actually examples, or just more about why that is true. And then especially more about Gatsby's using Nick is pure fact. So why is Gatsby's using Nick pure fact? So examples and elaboration on this. And then also maybe something about how the two interplay and why it's interesting that they both coexist in the novel. So great analytical potential here, just needs some elaboration, which is certainly a word you've probably seen teachers write on your essays, and it's often something we need to do in improving our work. There's Dexter in the corner. All right, succinctness, short, brief, concise, using words efficiently. This is from an essay about Shel Silverstein's poem Where the Sidewalk Ends. The asphalt flowers are the things that really make it quite clear that adulthood is a place where you can't be free or natural or naive and beautiful, sort of like saying innocent and simply happy anymore. That is what the asphalt flowers imagery pretty much comes to mean. All right, pause and think about ways this could be shorter. Welcome back. All right, so what we have here is that this is pretty much all we need for the sentence. The rest of it becomes repetitive, and we could also cut words out of this. Things that we don't need the really make it, we don't need the quite, a place, and then this is a little bit wordy in its construction too. This is an extreme example of succinctness's absence, and there are more subtle ways that many of us can work it and work increased succinctness into our writing. And lastly, precision. Specific, deliberate, definite, and this can happen on several levels. In word choice, in our longer sentence phrasing, and then also in the way we analyze. So in this way it would sort of double with, overlap a bit with the I and crisp, the insightful. Okay, so it is a good line because it shows the bad things adulthood can have. And Gatsby thinks if he just had what he thinks love is, he would have happiness. So he tries to get Daisy's love. So pause and think about where more precise word choice, more precise phrasing and analysis could come into these sentences. And then welcome back. So this one, pretty obvious, good and bad and things, about as vague as it can get. So more precise words available in each of those particular instances. Gatsby thinks if he just had what he thinks love is, he would have happiness, tries to get Daisy's love. So we have the word love twice, we have the word think twice, we have happiness. So in the word choice in all of those instances, we could get more precise. We can also get more precise in what it is that Gatsby thinks love is. And how and why he thinks it would qualify him for happiness, and how and why, well, not the why so much, how he tries to get Daisy's love. What is the getting there? So on the word level, on the overall idea level, more precision possible there. Okay. All right, so now let's look at these sentences actually revised to be more clear. So the one we looked at for clarity, making himself wealthy at 30, was much different than being born wealthy to Daisy. Let's look at an example. And here's a revised version of it, more clear. Daisy's being born into wealth contrasted majorly with Gatsby's achievement of wealth at 30. Now we know what our objects of comparison are. All fixed. All right, the sentence that needed to match the quotation, the evidence more completely with the introducing analysis is here. And here is how I would revise it. Okay, and revised, Gatsby believes he can achieve friends, and love with generous material opulence to guard against his worst fear, which he tells Daisy, I didn't want you to think I was just some nobody. So now we have the connection between the achievement of friendship and love, and why he says this and is saying this to Daisy. So the connection between motivation and action and the way they link together. So the sentence that was a great start, but that could bear, that bears room for more insight, more elaboration on what exactly is meant here, and then the way I would revise it. Okay, in the revised version, adding a lot of elaboration. Whether Gatsby did think of Nick as an actual friend can be debated. They converse and sport together with seeming sincerity and mutual enjoyment, and Nick opines on his love and respect for Gatsby. But Gatsby's using Nick is also pure fact. Every conversation they undertake and endeavor they set upon links to Gatsby's pursuit of Daisy, and without him no reunion could have been achieved. So that adds two additional pieces of analysis supporting each of the fun, exciting, analytical claims that the sentence had to begin with. And revising for succinctness, you remember this sentence, okay. And the revised version, basically cutting out everything in the sentence after beautiful here, and also taking out some unneeded words. From within the first part, with the imagery of asphalt flowers, Silverstein conveys the difficulty in adulthood of being free, natural, naive, or beautiful. All right, and revising for precision, revising both of these. First one, it is a good line because it shows bad things adulthood can have. All right, so I added a bunch of precise words. Instead of saying it's a good line, I say the line's potency. Instead of using the verb is or shows, I say derives, and then revealing. And then instead of bad things about adulthood, pitfalls of unpoetic adulthood, and then this appositive phrase, pitfalls, which strike both child and adult with their verity, which is a word for truth, so that's also emphasizing the good here. All right, and next one. And revised here, remember all the thinks and the love, happiness, love, tries, get, all those words could be more precise, and the overall idea could be more precise. Gatsby believes that existing in a state of reciprocal love with his precious beloved object, Daisy, would install him in permanent happiness. So more specific about the love and more specific about how he wants to occupy it, and more specific about Daisy and how he wants to be with her. All right, so to practice this, find 8 sentences or sections, so they could be more than a sentence or maybe a little shorter than a sentence, in your most recent draft, whatever you're working on, that could benefit from revision. And so find 8 sentences to improve for in one of the crisp categories. You don't need to worry about getting a sentence from each. Just try to look for what sentences that could use improvement, and then think about them through these lenses, and which of the categories would benefit the sentence most to revise for, and then revise them. And be sure to preserve a copy of the original sentence and the revised one, so you can show the sentences to your teacher, and she can consult with you on how the revision process is going. And here's Dexter at a stream. Bye!